Welcome to the Word on Woodward presented by PointsBet, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Red Wings, Detroit Tigers, and Little Caesars Arena. I'm your host, Daniela Bruce, and joining me today, Director of Player Development for your Detroit Red Wings, Shawn Horcoff. Shawn, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We're really excited to chat, especially with all the exciting stuff coming up for the Red Wings, Prospects Tournament, training camp. We're getting right back into it.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. So thanks for having me on.
Yes, very excited to talk about the upcoming Prospects Tournament. And we were able to take a look at the roster. And obviously, one thing jumps off the page at everybody and Red Wings fans all over that Moritz Seider is not on the Prospects Tournament roster. Can you dive into why that is and why the decision was made to kind of let him just go into training camp?
Well, I think with Moritz, he's been there before. He only has, at this point, he has 1 year under his belt in the AHL. He played a full season over in the SHL last year. So he's 2 years pro going into his third year. And frankly, really it comes down to what you have on your roster. And you can only play 6 defensemen a night, and we want to take a look at some other guys. And frankly, after Mo's 2 years of pro, and he's proven himself at the levels that he's played at a high level. That it is only 3 games that we would give him the benefit of just being able to step right into main camp.
And interestingly for you, obviously with COVID-19, travel restriction has been placed for really the last year and a half. And guys like Lucas Raymond, Jonathan Berggren, and really anybody from those draft classes, when is the last time that you were able to see them in person, and how much more exciting does that make this Prospects Tournament?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It's really exciting, not just to see them in person and actually see them play on the ice in person, because obviously last year we weren't able to do that. Just to be around them. I think that's the one thing with development is, the biggest thing for us is building relationships with these guys early. Our view as a staff with Danny Cleary in North America and obviously Nick Cromwell in Sweden is, you can't expect these kids to do what you want them to do unless they trust you first, right? And really the only way they trust you is to hang out with them. So a big part of our job, especially with the newly drafted players, is to get into town and take them for dinner, get on the ice with them, do video with them, really build a relationship, and that made it a little bit tougher. But thank God we had Nick over in Europe last year, who worked extremely hard, and really we didn't miss a beat. And I think it was a big advantage for us, seeing as how big our European prospect pool is.
Shawn, let's dive into the players that are on the Prospects Tournament roster coming up very shortly here. Very excited to get up to Traverse City and see these guys play. So the 2018 draft class consists of Joe Veleno, Jared McIsaac, and Jonathan Berggren. Joe Veleno taken in the high first round, the other two in the early second round. And they're all 3 very interesting players. I think Joe Veleno and Jonathan Berggren have a genuine chance at making the Red Wings roster out of training camp. We saw Joe Veleno spend some time with the Wings last season, and then of course Jonathan Berggren tearing it up in Sweden. So can you just talk about those 2 players and what you've seen in their development in the last 18 months?
Yeah, I think, well, both of them, I think, have taken a huge step. I'll start with Bergie. He obviously had a little bit of a tough go with it early in his career. Suffering a couple injuries that made him miss significant amounts of time. I think the one benefit of that was it forced him to get into the gym more, forced him to kind of, take a look into what his physical limitations were, which is the biggest issue that he had in his development. He's just a guy that when we first drafted him was just so naturally talented. Never really had to, never saw the inside of the gym much because he didn't have to. And so going through those injuries allowed him to do that. He had some good people around him working with him, putting a good plan in place in terms of physical strength, and I think it really showed last year. He took off and obviously finishing top 5 in scoring at his age in the SHL is no small feat. So he made a big step last year, and was the thing that I liked the most was he's excited to come over. He's ready to come over. He wants to come over and feels he's very, very close to be able to make to push for a position on the Detroit Red Wings. So we're obviously excited to see him in camp. He's here now skating with the guys, getting ready for next week. Joe Veleno, obviously a great year. We're really happy that for all of us, early in the process, I think we had the organization had a good foresight to realize that maybe there's a good chance that hockey's not going to be played a lot over here in the upcoming season. So we really got to work early trying to find places for our prospects to play over in Europe. And Valeno was one guy that went. Fortunately, like I said, we do have a lot of European prospects. Zadina, Lindstrom, Hronik, all these guys that kind of went home and were able to continue to easily find places to play. But we had Valeno over there. Rask got a spot over there. I think you saw last year with Rask his jump in development just from playing hockey, and it was no different for Valeno. We're really happy he made the decision to go over there. He had a fantastic time, and I think it really helped in not only his physical and on ice maturity, but just his overall maturity off the ice. And he was living on his own. There's a lot that goes into being a professional hockey player, taking care of yourself off the ice, your sleeping habits, your eating habits. I think that was really a big step forward for Joe. And he's really matured a lot here over the last couple of years. And, I'm expecting to see a player that should be pretty darn close to pushing for a spot. And I'm hoping that he goes out there and does what he can to earn it, because he's put a lot of work on in the last couple of years. And I think you saw it in his play last year.
And Lucas Raymond, drafted 4th overall in the 2020 draft. This is a player I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on, because it's, like we talked about earlier, one of the players that you probably haven't seen much in person, if at all. So what are you looking forward to about Lucas Raymond being over here, and what are your plans for him as you move forward?
Well, we're all very excited to have Lucas here. I think we view him as a player that's going to hopefully play a major part of our future. He's got great hockey sense, good talent. He can both shoot and he can score. He can pass. He's just a player with a lot of upside. So when you get those type of players, you can't wait to get your hands on them, especially as development staff, and get to work, and especially in person. So we're happy that he's over here. He's a very driven kid. He constantly wants to get better. He's open to criticism. He's open to coaching. He's been really a pleasure to work with. So, in terms of what to expect of him, I don't really put a lot of expectations into any of our guys. The one thing about hockey is, which I tell them kind of all, is the best part about being drafted is there's just no more politics. You guys figure out yourself on the ice when you're ready to play in the NHL, and then just how successful you're going to be. There's nothing given to you, because it's just not the way the game works. You have to go out there, you have to earn a spot. Obviously, yes, we're rebuilding, and yes, we want the young kids to come in and play as soon as they can, but we're not going to rush them. They're going to tell us when they're ready from their play, and that's what we're hoping to see out of Lucas and all these guys this year, is that they're ready to make a jump. And if they're not, there's Grand Rapids, who has an excellent coaching staff down there. We're going to increase the touches on our skill and skating coaches down there, and develop these kids and just kind of stick with them until they are ready.
Unfortunately, we will not see the 6th overall pick from the 2021 draft, Simon Edvinsson, over here at Prospects Tournament, but we will see the 15th overall pick. Goaltender Sebastian Cossa will be a member of the Prospects Tournament team. With goaltenders, what is the difference when you're looking at their development? So obviously we're all really excited, just like we are for Lucas Raymond, to see Sebastian Cossa in person for the first time. But how does the development process work with goaltenders?
We have, first off, Phil O'Sara's on staff as well, and he's the goalie guy, right? He helps with our drafting. He's the one that stays in touch primarily, and is the day-to-day guy with all of our goaltending prospects. Obviously, Phil and I keep in contact, but I don't claim to know too much about how to save the hockey puck, So we'll leave all the technical stuff to Phil and our other staff, to Beamer and Sal, obviously. But goaltenders, for one reason or not, they seem to take a little bit longer. It's obviously a tough position. You make one mistake in goal, it costs you, it costs your team a goal immediately. So usually it takes them a little bit longer. But with Sebastian, there's just a lot of physical tools to be excited about there. He's obviously a size. He moves very well. And so we felt as an organization, an opportunity to trade up and get a goalie like that was just something that we couldn't pass up. So I'm excited to see him. I want to start to talk to him obviously a few times, done these Zoom calls with him, and I'm excited to see him in person. I get to know him more, and then I see him play live, because that's something that I wasn't able to do last year.
I wish I could go through the entire roster with you, but I'm going to ask you about one more specific player in Donovan Sebrengo, who I think surprised everybody last season by getting a contract with the Griffins, and really exciting and watching him play down there. He was pretty successful. What has your experience been like with him? And again, what are you looking forward to about him as we head into another season?
Well, first with Donovan, fortunately there's a new rule in place. Normally he would have to go back and play junior hockey this year, but there's a new rule in place in the OHL that allows players from the O that played in the American Hockey League last year to still play in there again this year. So, we do have the option to keep Donovan in Grand Rapids again. We're hoping he comes into camp and takes another step forward and plays like he did last year, or if not better, and stays with us, because obviously he was a pleasant surprise. I think that's one benefit for not just us, but a lot of the teams, is they got to see their younger prospects that they normally wouldn't have play in the AHL. And it's no secret that the league last year wasn't as good as it normally is, given the taxi squad, and there was a lot of it wasn't as deep as it normally would be. But like I said, because of that, you saw a lot of younger players that would not normally play in the league. And so I'm looking forward to see Donovan. He really surprised all of us last year. He came as a smart player. He's got lots of tools. He's physical. He's not afraid out there. He plays aggressively. And there's lots to like about Donovan. I love his attitude and his demeanor. And like I said, we're hoping that he makes another step forward. He had a great summer of training, and that he can step up and play an even bigger role for us in Grand Rapids this year.
Shawn, I've asked you specifically about some players that obviously all of the Red Wings fan base are excited about. They hear a lot about. But when you're going through the player development process and you're working with all of the Red Wings prospects, is there anybody that fans should have their eye on that may not get the same amount of attention?
I don't know. I mean, I think they all should get attention because they all deserve it. They've worked hard to get to this point and get drafted. So I hope fans in general would pay attention to all of them. I mean, I know you touched on Edvinsson. He's off to a great start for London. He's playing in the SHL. It's not easy for a player of that age to play there and play significant minutes, and it's obviously just started. So but he's going to have lots of upside. I think too, there's going to be one kid that's going to be at camp and up there that probably fans don't know too much about. Tutyayev came over from Belarus last year. He was a kid that surprisingly, Russian kid that wanted to come over right away and wanted to play. And we kind of forced our hand into wanting to sign over here, which was great to see, because he wanted to come and train in the summer, and he did. And so I'm looking forward to seeing, he's just another name, probably more of a quiet name that people don't pay too much attention to, but they're going to see, and he's got skill. So I think it'd be someone for them to watch.
Yeah, they'll learn quick watching some of our prospects tournament coverage. Again, we're really excited. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and walk us through a little bit of what we can expect heading into the weekend. We really do appreciate it.
Great. No problem. Thanks, Shawn.
And a big thank you to PointsBet for presenting the Word on Woodward. PointsBet is an official gaming partner of the Detroit Red Wings, Detroit Tigers, and Little Caesars Arena. We'll see you next time.